The longer I let you speak, the worse things you say. Now go to your own people and bring back with you all those powerful men and more. I can meet them one by one as they come or all together. I can deal with them. Now be gone. Understand now, my mission in life is to root out all the Rakshasas from the face of this earth. Until I achieve it, I'll be here. Even after suffering mutilation at the hands of Lakshmana, Sarpanaka stood there and persisted in appealing to Rama to accept her, hinting that through her magical powers, she could appear beautiful again. At this point, Rama felt that he ought to explain to her who he was and how he had come to be here with his wife and brother. Further, he made it plain again that his mission in life would be to wipe out the Ashura class. He recounted how he destroyed Tataka and her brood. Far from discouraging her, this actually gave Sarpanaka another idea. If that's your purpose, I could be your best ally. If you do not spurn me for my appearance, if you do not reject me for my enormous teeth and large mouth, if you marry me, I will teach you all the arts and tricks, magical and others, that make my people superb and invincible. I can teach you how to defeat them, but you must treat me kindly. You must accept me. Even if you cannot give up your slender companion, well, don't view me as an impossible addition. Would I be one too many? No, I'll help you by revealing to you all the tricks and trickeries of your enemies so that you may attain complete victory over them. A serpent's feet are known to another serpent. Even if your mind does not allow you to give up your wife, take me as a third partner. In your fight against Rakshasas, when my brother, who once kept the sun and moon in captivity, and I am not his inferior in valor, when he is defeated and gone, then at least let your brother, Lakshmana, marry me, and let me be with you when you return in triumph to Ayodhya. When we return, do not be worried that a person without a nose is accompanying you. Please understand that I can create any shape for myself. If by chance Lakshmana ever questions, how could I live with a woman without a nose? Tell him that he can in the same way as you live with one who was without any waist. When she said this, Lakshmana was so enraged that he declared, "Brother, have I your permission to put an end to her? Otherwise, she will never leave us alone." Rama thought it over and said, "I think so too. If she persists and will not leave, that may be the only way." On hearing this, Sarpanaka picked herself up and left in haste. "Fools, do you think I meant what I said? Even after the loss of my features, I've stayed and spoken to you only to understand the depth of your base mentality. I'll go, but come back soon enough with one who will be your Yama, a being more powerful than the elements of the name Kara." And she left. Kara, one of Ravana's stepbrothers, a dreaded warrior demon with 14 chiefs under him commanding an army, protected Sarpanaka and carried out her orders. After leaving Panchanevi, Sarpanaka stormed in at his court, displayed her injuries, and cried, "Two human beings who have moved into our realm have done this to me." Two human beings? Ah, wonderful sons of Dasaratha, so sage-like in appearance, but armed for the purpose of exterminating our clan. They have with them a woman of unearthly beauty. When I tried to seize her, these two humans fell on me and hacked me thus. Kara looked closely at the damage done to her and thundered, "Death to those two. Not only they, but all human beings shall be stamped out." He sprang up to go into action. 14 commanders at once surrounded him and said, "Does it mean that you have no confidence in us that you should start out this way yourself? Leave the task to us. We will go and settle it." Kara agreed. "So be it. You're right. If I wage war on these tiny, pretty creatures, the gods will mock us. Go and feast on their blood, but bring back the woman carefully. Carrying a variety of arms such as spears and tridents and scimitar and hatchets, the commanders led by Sarpanaka, marched on towards Rama's cottage. Sarpanaka stopped at a distance and pointed Rama out to them. "There he is, mark him." The 14 Asuras muttered, Shall we bind and take him, or toss him in the air and kill him, or use the piercing lance on him?" Surpanaka said, "Bring that man alive. I will deal with him." When he saw them approaching, Rama ordered Lakshmana, "Guard Sita, don't leave her side." He took out his bow, flung his sword into position, girt himself for a fight, and emerged from his cottage with the anger of a lion. The battle began and ended quickly. Rama's arrows knocked down the weapons the Asuras bore and severed their heads. Surpanaka fled from the field and reported to Kara the disaster that had befallen her chiefs. Kara sounded his tocsin and gathered an army of powerful Rakshasas. They made their way to Panchanavi and surrounded Rama's ashram without any doubt that they would end the career of the two foolhardy human beings. They had plans to surround the cottage, fall on it at a given moment, and wipe out the landmark with its occupants. With shouts and screams calculated to shake the nerves of their victims, they flourished their weapons and converged on the cottage. This phase of the battle was a little more prolonged, but the result was the same as before. Rama defeated Kara and his allies. Surpanaka watched from afar, understood the trend of events, snatched a brief moment to approach and cry over the mangled corpses strewn around, including that of her champion and brother Kara, and decided it was time for her to leave the area. She fled to Lanka and to convey the news of the disaster to her brother Ravana. The Grand Tormentor. Ravana, the supreme lord of this and other worlds, sat in his Durbar hall, surrounded by a vast throng of courtiers and attendants. The kings of this earth, whom he had reduced to a Valsadam, stood about with their hands upraised in an attitude of perpetual salutation, lest at any moment Ravana should turn in their direction and think that they were not sufficiently servile. Beauties gathered from all the world surrounded him, singing, dancing, ministering to his wants, ever ready to give him pleasure and service, with all their eyes fixed on him, watching for the slightest sign of commands. Every minute, vast quantities of flowers were rained on him by his admirers. He had also enslaved the reigning gods and put them to perform menial tasks in his court. Among them, Vayu, the god of winds, was there to blow away faded flowers and garlands, and generally sweep the hall clean. Yama, the god of death, was employed to sound the gong each hour to tell them the time of day. The god of fire was in charge of all illumination and kept lamps, incense, and camphor flames alit. The Kalpataru, the magic tree that yielded any wish taken away from Indra, was also there to serve Ravana. Sage Narada sat there gently playing his veena. The gurus, Brihaspati, who guided the guards, and Sukracharya, who guided the Asuras, men possessing the finest intellects, were also there ready to advise Ravana when asked to act generally as soothsayers. Into this setting crashed Surpanaka, screaming so loudly that all the men, women, and children of the city came rushing out of their homes and crowded the northern portal of the palace, where Surpanaka had made her entry. She dashed up and fell before Ravana's throne, crying, "See what has happened to me?" When Ravana observed her state, he thundered, "What is the meaning of this? Who has done it?" in such a tone that all nature shrank and slunk away from the scene. Gods held their breath, unable to gauge their upheaval that would follow when Ravana struck in revenge. When Ravana in the assembly held his breath and waited, when everyone in the assembly held his breath and waited, Ravana inquired with deliberate calmness, "Who has done this to you?" Surpanaka explained in detail and concluded, referring to Rama, "Even if I had 1,000 tongues, I could never fully explain his beauty and the grandeur of his personality. Even if one has 1,000 eyes, one could not take in the splendor of this being. His strength is unmatched. Single-handed, he wiped out all our army." He realized that she had made a blunder, revealing too much of her inner feelings for Rama, and corrected herself by adding, "For all his looks, what a cruel heart he has. His mission in life is to wipe out our whole family, clan, class from the face of this earth." Ah, cried Ravana, challenged. We will see about that. But tell me, why did he do this to you? How did you provoke him? He has a woman who should be yours. If you win her, I feel all your present favorites will be thrown out. I also fear that you will surrender to her all your powers, valor, possessions, and conquests, and make yourself her object devotee. Her name is Sita. I was so overcome by her beauty that I waited and watched for a chance and attempted to snatch her and bring her to you as a present. Ravana's interest shifted from revenge to love, and he said, why didn't you? When I seized her, this man's brother, how strong he was, fell on me and slashed my face. Tell me about her. Tell me all about her, Ravana commanded, ignoring all other issues. Sarpanaka described Sita from head to toe in minute detail. The picture she conjured up was convincing, and Ravana fell madly in love with her image. He became restless and unhappy. Every syllable that Sarpanaka uttered gave him both pleasure and pain. Sarpanaka urged him to set forth and capture Sita. Finally, she said, when you have succeeded in getting that woman, keep her for yourself. But be sure to surrender that man, Rama, to my hands. I'll deal with him. She had no doubt that her strategy to separate Sita from Rama was going to succeed, and then Rama would naturally turn to her for love. Ravana felt uneasy. He rose abruptly and left the hall, unwilling to let the assembly notice his state of mind. They rained flowers on him and uttered blessings and recited his glory as usual when he strode down the passage. His 10 heads were held erect and his eyes looked straight ahead, not noticing the people standing about in respectful array. His mind was seething with ideas for the conquest of Sita. Sarpanaka's words had lit an all-consuming flame within him. He ignored his wives who were awaiting his favors, and passed on to his own private chamber, where he shut the door and flung himself on his luxurious bed. He lay there tossing, unable to rid his mind of the figure conjured up by Sarpanaka's words. It was a total obsession. He felt tormented and raged against his surroundings, which appeared to aggravate his suffering. Presently, he realized that his bed and the chamber were uninhabitable. The place seemed to be scorching hot. He got up and moved out unceremoniously to the woods, leaving his attendants and aides wondering what kind of seizure was driving him hither and thither. He moved to his garden house of pure marble and gold, set amidst towering palmyra and the flowering trees, and lay down on a pure white satin bed. When they saw him arrive, cuckoos and parrots in the trees silenced themselves. The late winter, with its light mist and cool wind, proved uncomfortable to Ravana, who shouted at it the question, what wretched season are you? Whereupon the weather changed to early summer, a rather unwilling summer, ushered in prematurely. One who found the wintry day too warm naturally found even spring unbearable. Ravana cried out, I do not want this weather. Let the monsoons come immediately. The weather changed to suit his mood. On his order came the monsoon season with its cloud and damp air, but even that proved too warm for him. He shouted, what kind of weather is this? You have brought back only the late winter, which was horrible. His aides answered meekly, would we dare disobey you? What we called down was really early rains, as your lordship commanded. Whereupon Ravana said, banish all seasons. Let them all get out of this world. As a consequence, there was a complete standstill in time. Minute, hour, day, month, and year lost their boundaries, and mankind was lost in a seasonless confusion. In spite of all this, there was no peace for Ravana. He was still scorched by a hopeless love for Sita. When all measures for cooling himself had failed, such as covering his body with sandalwood paste and layers of tender leaves on a rare plant treated with essence of saffron, Ravana, who felt himself shriveling in stature, said to those around him, the moon is supposed to have a cool moisture. Bring the moon down. His messengers approached the moon, who normally avoided passage over Ravana's territory, and said, our king summons you. Don't be afraid. Come with us. The moon rose in full glory over the sea and timidly approached Ravana, bathing his surroundings in soft light. But now Ravana asked his servants, "What made you bring the sun?" They answered. "The sun dare not come unasked, nor would we dare to bring him here." When Ravana recognized the moon as the moon, he swore at him, "You are a worthless, pale face, constantly worn out and trying to regain your shape again. You have no stamina or quality. You are contemptible. Is it possible that you are also stricken with thoughts of Sita? Take care if you ever entertain any ideas about that woman. Get out now. I don't want you here." He then ordered, "Let the night go. Get back daylight and the sun." When the night suddenly ceased, all the people of the world were suddenly thrown into confusion. Lovers in bed found themselves suddenly exposed by daylight. Those in a state of intoxication with wine were bewildered and embarrassed. Birds stirred in their nests, not knowing what had happened. Lamps fed with oil and lit for the whole night faded in daylight. Astronomers who calculate the movement of the stars and planets and declare their positions through the almanacs were caught literally napping, as they did not know day had come. Even the roosters remained silent, unable to adjust themselves to sudden daylight. "Is this the sun? You call him the sun? He is once again the moon, who was here a while ago and made my blood boil." This one was no better. "Same as before. Don't lie," said Ravana. His servants assured him that this was really the sun. Then he ordered the sun to go out and the crescent moon to rise, then the sea waves to remain silent, and then ordered total darkness to envelope the earth, causing confusion and suffering to its inhabitants. In that utter darkness, Ravana suffered hallucinations of Sita's figure approaching and receding, and addressed it endearingly. He had never seen anyone so beautiful in all the worlds where he had roamed at will. Still doubting his own vision, he ordered, "Fetch my sister at once." No time could be lost between his command and the execution thereof. Surpanaka arrived. He asked her, "I see this woman before me. Is this the one you meant?" Surpanaka looked hard and said, "Oh no, that person who stands before us is not a woman at all. It's Rama, that man. I don't see Sita here. You are only imagining." "If it's mere imagination on my part, how is it you see Rama here? Surpanaka merely said, "Ever since the day he did this to me, I find it impossible to forget him." Trying not to be too explicit about her feelings for Rama, equivocating her meetings, Ravana said, "Be that as it may, I am melting and dying for Sita. How shall I be saved now?" Surpanaka said, "You are the overlord of the 7 worlds, mightier than the mightiest. Why do you feel sad and unhappy? Go get her. Go and get her. That is all. Take her. She is yours. Is there anything beyond your reach? Stir her. Leave this desolate mood. Go forth, snatch her, because she is yours, created for you and waiting for you." Thus she infused the new spirit in Ravana and it made her secretly happy that her plan to get Sita out of the way was working out satisfactorily. She left. Rama felt reassured now and braced himself to take practical steps to achieve his aim. He sent out his servants to summon his advisors and minister immediately. With the least delay, they began to arrive at Ravana's retreat by horseback, elephant, chariots, and the gods in heaven watched the traffic apprehensively, speculating as to what this sudden activity might bode for the universe. Ravana's consultations with the advisors were brief, being in the nature of an announcement to them of decisions already made. Somehow he valued the formality of being counseled. He then summoned his chariot, got into it alone, and flew toward a retreat where his uncle, Maricha, was meditating in a cave. Maricha had made 2 attempts to attack Rama, and both had failed. The first had been the one at Siddharasrama to avenge his mother Tataka's death, when Rama's arrow had flung him far out into the sea. Later, he had made another attempt, failed to kill Rama, and retreated into the woods, forswearing a career of violence. Now, at the sight of Ravana, Maricha felt uneasy. but received him courteously and inquired, "What can I do for you?" Ravana said, "My mind is shattered. I am going through a phase of utter shame. The gods doubtless watch and rejoice, but on our supreme race, a great shame has fallen, and we have to hang our heads down and crawl aside like faceless worms. A human creature has stationed himself in Dandanka and has dared to challenge our supremacy. He has mutilated my dear sister's face. Your beloved niece is now without nose, ears, or breasts. He chopped them off when she approached his miserable hut." Maricha already had an inkling as to who the human creature was, and when he heard the sound Rama, he immediately said, "Keep away from him." Ravana felt irritated and declared, "I won't. Are you suggesting that we should tremble before him? Let us not go near him." Ravana said, "Very well, I will not go near him, but only snatch away his woman and keep her with me. For after all, I do not wish to engage myself in a fight with a mere human being, but he must be taught a lesson for his presumptuous and reckless arrogance. One sure way of hurting a human being is to deprive him of his female companion." I'll pause here.